Hi, everybody. I know some people are here for other conversations. That's fine. Or I invite you this conversation here to begin. And I'll tell you why. There's people online that are wanting to be in on this conversation from Calgary or other parts of the world. And it's a 30-minute conversation. So we welcome you to it. So as I said earlier, the church this year, 2024 is a big year as we focus in on many things continuing to do, but three big ones that we have to as a church. The first is renovation, which we'll talk about next week. That's the renovation of the annex of our building. When you leave here today, I invite you to go out that way and have a look at the really demolished kitchen and the really ugly gym. Because it's just like me, it gets older and changes and needs to be refreshed. So that we'll be talking about next week. But today we wanted to take some time to just reflect together a bit about the Living Spirit site. This is the second site for our church. Over the years, we have talked about different ways we might engage there. Then the mysterious thing called COVID came and put us all on pause. And now we are entering the steps into a new way of being present in that city, that area of the city in a different way. And so I have with me to my right, William Brook, who's a congregant, VST student, Vancouver School of Theology student, who will be helping us there part-time, half-time, on that site as a student leading this process. And on my left is Barry Foster, who's began with us just towards the end of November. When Ann Yates left, there was a bit of a void. We needed some help around here to sort through both our HR and our ministry and personnel work, which he's helping us do, as well as help the staff through this. And so he'll be leading one of the conversations in 2 weeks' time. So that's a long introduction to Living Spirit. I'm going to hand the mic off to William. This is not a presentation. This is not a done deal. All this is saying, do you have any questions? We'd like to be in conversation. We might be able to have answers, but probably not, and that's totally cool. So here we are, and I'm going to hand it off to William.
Excuse me. Thank you, John. So I'm going to read something fairly short. Rather than trying to speak off the cuff as a retired professor, I can speak for way too long. I don't have any slides because that would just be adding gasoline to the fire. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit. So I am William Brook. I'm an MDiv student at VST. And I'm a member of this congregation, and for the last several years I've been leading in the contemplative ministry. And I'm preparing for ordination in the United Church of Canada, and I'm about to start a 2-year training as part of this Living Spirit initiative. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the opportunity that we have at Living Spirit, a little bit about the vision, and a little bit about what the next steps are, and then we can have a conversation. So the opportunity is that 4 years ago, the Living Spirit congregation joined Hillhurst United, and the plan was to have a second campus at the Living Spirit building, a second campus of this church. But the pandemic got in the way, and now we're ready to move forward with a different version of the plan from 4 years ago. So Living Spirit is located at the boundaries of Elboya and Windsor Park, and that's roughly at Elbow and 50th Avenue in the south. There's no other United churches within several kilometers in any direction from Living Spirit, and so there's a real need there to maintain that church. The building has some great qualities. It has a quiet and intimate sanctuary, a good kitchen, a dining hall, and several small rooms which are suitable for small group ministry. Now, the Chinook Winds region, the governing body that we're governed by, owns the building and rents it out to a few groups, and will let us use it free of rent for the foreseeable future. And that means about 2 to 3 years. And that's probably enough time to see if it is viable for us to develop a sustainable community at Living Spirit. So that's the opportunity. The vision is to bring a new expression of Hillhurst values of good religion to a different part of the city. And what we're imagining is a community focusing on spiritual renewal, a community of connection where we worship and teach and learn a variety of contemplative spiritual practices that help us to live out our lives as followers of Jesus, as lovers of God, and of friends of the earth. And we want to do this because we have so much strength in contemplative leadership in this church. Now, contemplative spirituality is often thought to mean mindfulness and meditation, and that's part of it. And we have many meditation leaders in this church, people like Janet Grun, Liz Rees, Jim Arthurs, and all the Daybreak leaders. But contemplative spirituality has connection with lots of other areas where this congregation is also very gifted with many strong leaders. So don't let the word contemplative scare you, because really to live contemplatively just means to live life with greater connection to the earth, to God, to others, and to your own soul. And we all really want that, I think. So contemplative can mean expressive arts and dance. We have leaders like Kathy Kernahan, Barbara Amos, Donna Friesen, or yoga. We have Rachel Grun and Beth Workman, who already lead wonderful ministries. It can mean eco-spirituality, which is really what we were talking about today with Mary Jorstad, how our faith compels us to care for the earth and to live in harmony for the earth. And members of our church like Liz Rees and Robin Gailey and Sarah Arthurs are really leaders in our city in sort of the eco-spirituality movement. Contemplative aligns with 12-step spirituality, and many members of our congregation are members of 12-step programs, including me. And it aligns with Indigenous spirituality. And we have been in discussions with Reverend Tony Snow, and he has some interest in gathering at Living Spirit with his urban Indigenous circle, and we think they would be wonderful partners for us. There are leaders in our own community who are stepping up to propose some really interesting and unique programs. Alan Frank has a vision to create programs that bring diverse people together in conversations, sharing stories and coming together in supportive and even difficult conversations. Now, Alan is in Mexico, God bless him. At least the weather's pretty nice here today, so we can love him up. But he writes, in a world that often feels isolating and divisive, let's find common ground to challenge and transform ourselves and our communities. James Sylvester, whose son was just baptized this morning, is working hard to see if he can build a community garden and a permaculture garden in land adjacent to the church that is owned by a power company. And so far, they are not saying no, and they're vaguely saying yes, so that's really exciting. And we're beginning to plan weekend workshops for next fall, like the ones we just had this month, because the space is really well suited for education and conversation and connection. John Pentland and a team from the steering committee are going to make connections in the community so that we can learn how we can be good neighbors in the south side of the city. And so that's the vision so far. And the next steps, well, church begins with worship, so that's the next step. And beginning on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, and Ash Wednesday, love and death, all wrapped up in one. We are going to start having worship on Wednesday evenings at Living Spirit. It'll begin at 6 or so with some music, worship until about 7:15, and we'll follow with a simple dinner to connect and to be in conversation. We're going to worship in a circle, and it's going to be spacious. We're going to have music, we'll sing, we'll hear a short sermon. We'll take time to reflect and pray, and then, like I said, connect with a meal. There's enthusiasm and support for this. We had 30 people come out to Living Spirit last Sunday to clean up the pews and to make it look even more beautiful than it was already. And we have folks like Denise Simos and Elaine Moses who are trying to figure out how to feed us on Wednesday evenings when we gather for worship. Christy Gunter will lead music. And what we're really hoping is that seeds from this congregation, and that may be some of you, will help us start a new community that shares our values of spirituality, social justice, risk, radical hospitality, and inclusiveness in the south side of the city. So before we have a conversation, I wonder if I can just get the members of the steering committee who are here just to stand up and wave so that we can see you. There's John, and Barry is actually not standing, but he's a member. David Swan and Paul Davies. Janet Grun is a member as well, and so is Ann Kleffner. And Andrea comes a lot and is very helpful when she does. So that's all I really have to say, and I'll just open it up. I'm sorry if that went on too long, but I'll open it up for questions, and we will do our very best to answer them. So the question is, what plans do we have for marketing? And I would say the safest answer is to say that that is a plan that is evolving. We've been given a very short runway, is the word they use by the region, to start. And so a lot of the last couple of months has really been involved in just getting some of the mechanics going. But yeah, that's a big issue, is how are we going to communicate this to the community beyond things like social media and websites, et cetera. John and others are going to be in the community making connections with community associations and other churches and schools. And we're going to work on that, bit by bit over the next few weeks.
And I just would want to answer to you, and great question. That's what we want. We're not about your answers today. So you're helping us by saying communication's important, and we know that, and we appreciate hearing that. So we're going to work on that. So that kind of question is really helpful. Bill?
And the question that came up in conversation is, what is the legal status of the parking lot? If you don't know, still don't know, that's fine.
Another good question. Thank you. I don't know, and that's great. So we will be looking into what that is, unless anybody in this room has an answer they'd like to share, because there might be. Great. Okay, for somebody in Nova Scotia, the question's about parking, and we will be finding out what we can and can't do in the neighborhood. So parking, communication, great questions. Anybody else? Yes. Sarah?
I don't want to sound cheeky, but my question is why?
Okay. Do you want to take a stab at that? The why, you're saying why are we doing this? Okay.
Well, I guess the first question is why now? And right now we are a year or two coming out of the worst part of the pandemic, and we are being given an opportunity to do this, which will disappear. This is not a resource-heavy thing for us to try. It's a low commitment. We don't have to pay rent. And I suppose the why is that we had a vision to do this 4 years ago, which was delayed by the pandemic. And at that point, the why was largely that we feel that we have something to offer the city in terms of our values of good religion. You know the values, Sarah. You wrote them 1,000 times in emails, and that for the other, the location of the church, and the gifts that I think we have to share as a congregation that I went through. I think we do have a lot of really gifted teachers and leaders in this particular sort of way of doing church, and the idea would be to offer that new way of doing church in a wholly new neighborhood, not to completely reproduce what we do here. So we're not cloning Hillhurst and moving it to Alboya, but to develop a new way of doing what we do, a new expression, like a variation on the same tune that we've been singing for 20 years. Yeah.
And I would just like to add, this is not just creating another program in another building, okay? If we're just doing that, we'll stay here, okay? So you're not asking the staff to go, do more, do more, do more. No, the 7 neighborhoods around there, that is our work, okay? So what that would mean is there'll be people who will commit to being there on Wednesday, but it can't be a love-in just for us. Okay, this has to be clearly saying there are 7 neighborhoods in that region that could have a United Church closer. So that's really clear, and I think William did a great presentation, though, even though it wasn't a presentation. And part of that why is to say we have good things that we know, and we want to work with the people who are not in this room right now, who might want a church there. If we are just doing it something because it's a little closer to your house, we missed the boat. This is about being people who are there in both sites. And I can't say that enough, because I've said that to the board and to the M&P committee, that if we're just creating another program somewhere else, we are not doing the work of our church, okay? So I just got an IC over there. We have about 12 minutes left.
So we can use this building rent-free for maybe 3 years. What is the current expenses that the presbytery is paying just to maintain that building? Taxes, heat, and all of that? And will we, at the end of 3 years, be able to look at that financial risk for Hillhurst and say, can we accept that?
I can answer that as I pass it on to maybe Barry, but it costs about $8,000 a month to keep it going. And yes, we would want to say that's really when the real risk comes financially. Is this going to work or not? Do you have anything to add to that?
Just to say that currently the user groups making use of the facility are contributing about $3,500 towards that $8,000 operating cost. And yes, the region's paying for the insurance and some of those things. There's also some money that came from Living Spirit that the region holds, about $100,000. So on a monthly basis, they're making up the difference between their rental income and the cost of operation for the facility. And so, barring anything unforeseen, that money will kind of run out over the next 2 to 3 years. One of the challenges, I think, for Hillhurst is as we get to know the people of the neighborhoods, can we also encourage other partners to come in to use the facility that will help to add to the revenue that's associated with it? They have to be, groups that are in some ways compatible to the vision that we want to establish there. But it's in our interests, actually, to find some folks who might want to come in and make use of the facility and contribute to the revenue, so that that $100,000 fund that's available will last a little bit longer.
These are great questions, everyone. Thank you. I'm going to go to Jim. And I see you back there.
Hey, I'm going to use the language of new business startups. So give me your elevator pitch. What's this new way? 2 minutes. What is this new way? Can you give me that in the 2 minutes it takes from going from the ground floor to my office?
As long as tomorrow when you get on your elevator, you're going to repeat this.
No, it's a great question. Thank you. I think the pitch is basically this. We have been doing church in this community for 20 years in a very particular way, based on a series of wonderful values. We have an opportunity to be in a different part of the city and to express our values in a new way. We're going to be worshiping at a different time, in a different place, in a different space, and that will bring different people. We've noticed that already with when we have different meditation groups. If they're on Tuesdays, different people come than if they're on Wednesdays. So we're opening up a new space in a new part of the city. What's going to be different from what we do here? Well, it's going to be a little quieter, a little more spacious. There's going to be an emphasis on, I don't want to say going deeper because it implies that we don't go deep here, and I think we go very deep spiritually in this community, but going deeper in a different way, based around the sorts of spiritualities that I spoke about earlier. I think we're at the top of the building right now.
You're at the top of the building, and we'll refine it with time. But one of the things we're aware of is that it is a space in the city that is void. And if we're just inviting people to come here, we're missing an opportunity. We also have a strong base here. Okay, let's say numerically, there's about 250 people here today. By Tuesday night, when lots of people go to church, there's another 400 who showed up. And so we have the numbers and we have the lay capability to try this. And we have to test out, are we being called to this? And the thing I say to people who are brand new today is you got to come 4 or 5 times because every week's differently. So in your elevator pitch, I think the last thing you want to say is, I'll see you there Wednesday night, come with me, we'll see how it goes. And come 4 or 5 times because it might be different. So really, we're really trying hard to test something. If you're looking for the final answer, come back in a couple of years. Yeah, keep going. You want me to keep going up the elevator? Yep, there was a question over here, though.
It was a thankfulness for the idea of using that church as a center. It's sort of a dream of the people who came together to amalgamate and become Living Spirit, was to have a community center building. It was never done. I mean, this is like a part of it happening, that's...
Thank you. Hi, you got a question? Online question. Okay. We're so glad you have the questions online. Thank you.
Okay, so question from Lori Shea is there an intention for this new campus to grow in the direction of online worship?
The answer and the nod is yes, and it's a good question. We have to continually be reminded every time we gather that we're in this room, but there's several hundred people who are in another room. So thank you for the question.
There are several online communities for transgender, non-binary groups that I'm part of. And recently, like generally in those online communities, religion and politics are part of the things that you agree not to talk about. But they've been allowed to talk about them. And they've been asking about places to go. They're spiritual people, but they're concerned about the religious people that don't see them as viable Christians. And so is there any plans for an active affirming ministry there for people that are in the transgender non-binary communities?
I can answer that as the values of this church are the values of that church. If people feel safe in this place, they will feel safe in that place. Is that? And I guess my hope would be that this is a place that people can plug in and be who they are here, and the same attitude, approach, way of being would be present there too. Maybe even more so. Who knows? Yes, and we got about 3 minutes left. I'll go here and then over there and...
Here, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm a Living Spirit person. I'm a Hillhurst person now. But I just wanted to say that I think this needs to be in context. So Living Spirit didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was an amalgamation of 3 united churches, Southwood, Riverview, and Westminster. So it was Southminster, not Southwood. It was an amalgamation of 3 united churches, and it's been an interesting process for the last 20 years, quite frankly, of going through this amalgamation. So when Living Spirit was beginning to go down the tubes, we started negotiating with, and it turns out with Hillhurst, and worked out an arrangement. Now, of course, COVID threw a wrench into the plans, but I just want to tell you a little bit about the neighborhood. When the neighborhood put up no parking signs, when they got permission from the city to have hour parking along that 49th Avenue, they purposely didn't include Sunday because of us being there. They didn't want to block the church on Sunday. The other thing is the power lines that are on the south side of the church that are operated by AltaLink. We've never had a problem. Well, I had a ticket once, but that got cleared up. We've never really had a problem parking there whatsoever, particularly on Sundays and when there's weddings and funerals and all of that. It's not been a problem. So just to let you know that the building itself has wonderful acoustics, and it's as John said, there's no other living church nearby, a living united church nearby. So we are destined, I think. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And my comment as I move around is we've been delighted with the Living Spirit folks who transition here so beautifully and take on great leadership present in the pews and up front. You've been a great asset to our community. Well, here's my question. Talk to somebody near you for 1 minute. What did you hear that excites you? You got 1 minute and I'm starting to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good, time-wise?
Yeah, no, that's great.
Anything else you want to say? I thought you did a great job. That was really good. Really good. I hate to be grumpy, but when people start asking, what's your communication?
But you know, just say, like, this is a research project, basically, right?
Yeah.
It's an educational project.
I'm going to let you be the final, say something.
Ask if anyone wants to help you come help.
Yeah. Well, did I make the point that this is something, we're not just doing it over?
Yeah, it was really good.
It's really important.
I was trying to not say too much. That was a good thing to bring up in conversation.
Yeah, otherwise, we don't need to. We're not people looking for more things to do. You have 10 seconds left. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. I do want to thank you. We know we're not done. It's a research project. We're under construction. We're stepping along. We're going to step on landmines as we go. We're going to step on beautiful things that grow into new opportunities. We don't have the answer. But we do have a strong sense that God, the Spirit, is calling us to cultivate and make something new there. Who knows what it will be, but I believe you and us and the people that we don't even know yet will be part of this dream and vision. So I want to thank you for being part of this step and know that we don't have a secret plan that we're keeping to ourselves. We're inviting you in conversations like we are today. So thank you for being part of this. I'm going to invite William to just say any final words. So thanks very, very much for this. We really appreciate you hanging in.
Yeah, thank you everybody for listening. There's lots and lots to do, opportunities to help with worship, with hospitality, with dreaming, what happens next. So if you have ideas for programs, if you have ideas, any ideas at all, you can email them to livingspirit@hillhurstunited.com. If you have suggestions or questions, you can do that. I will stick around afterwards and you can come ask me questions. I think John and Barry will for a while as well. And just know that we're really open to input and ideas, and this won't work unless some of you decide that this is also your passion. And so we really look forward to folks coming along as part of this with all of us as we figure out what the next steps are. And thanks a lot for being here today.
Okay, have a great afternoon. Thank you. And William will be up front here if you'd like. Thanks very much.